At first, more seems like the obvious answer. More workers, more machines, more fertilizer, more advertising, more study time, more capital. If something is producing results, adding more of it feels like it should keep producing even better results. But economics warns that this intuition eventually breaks down. Diminishing returns describes the moment when each extra unit of input still helps, but helps less than the unit before it. The important point is that output does not necessarily fall. The factory may still make more products. The farm may still grow more crops. The business may still earn revenue. But the gain from each additional input starts shrinking. That shrinking gain is the heart of diminishing returns, and it explains why growth often slows even when effort continues to increase. In economics, diminishing returns is usually defined in a very specific way. Imagine a production process where one factor of production is increased while all other factors are held constant. Economists often use the phrase ceteris paribus, meaning all else equal. This condition matters because the law is not saying that every expansion fails. It is saying that if you keep adding only one input, while the rest of the system stays fixed, the extra output from that input will eventually decline. A bakery can add more workers, but if it has the same number of ovens, the same counter space, and the same supply chain, the extra workers eventually crowd each other. Production may rise, but each new worker contributes less than the previous one. The key concept is marginal output. Marginal means additional or incremental. If a farm adds one more worker and harvests 10 more crates of produce, that worker's marginal output is 10 crates. If the next worker adds only 7 more crates, total production has still increased, but marginal output has fallen. That is diminishing marginal productivity. The difference between total output and marginal output is essential. Many people hear diminishing returns and assume it means production is shrinking or the project has failed. Not necessarily. In the early stages, total output can keep rising for a long time. What changes is the efficiency of each additional input. The system is still moving forward, just with less force behind each extra push. Think about a simple factory. At the beginning, one machine and one worker may be underused. Add a second worker, and production rises sharply because tasks can be divided. Add a third, and there may be even more improvement. But if the factory floor, tools, and machines remain unchanged, a fourth, a fifth, or sixth worker may not produce the same jump. Workers wait for equipment, move around each other, or spend time coordinating instead of producing. Nothing magical has happened. The fixed inputs have become bottlenecks. Labor increased, but capital and space did not. This is why diminishing returns is not about laziness or incompetence. It is about the relationship between inputs inside a constrained production system. The law of diminishing returns is tied to the classic factors of production: land, labor, capital, and enterprise. Land includes natural resources and physical space. Labor is human effort and skill. Capital includes tools, buildings, machines, and financing. Enterprise is the organization, risk-taking, and management that combines the other factors. When one factor grows while the others stay fixed, imbalance appears. More labor without more capital can create congestion. More capital without enough skilled labor can leave machines idle. More land without management can waste opportunity. Production depends on the combination, not just the quantity of one input. Diminishing returns appears when the growing input can no longer be used as productively because the rest of the system has not expanded with it. This also explains why diminishing returns does not mean a society or business has reached its absolute limit. It describes a point on a particular production curve under specific conditions. If the conditions change, the curve can change too. A restaurant with one kitchen may get diminishing returns from hiring more cooks. But if it expands the kitchen, improves ordering systems, buys better equipment, and trains staff, productivity can rise again. The original bottleneck has been removed. In this sense, diminishing returns is not a permanent curse. It is a signal. It tells decision-makers that simply adding the same input is no longer the best path. The next improvement may require a different input, better coordination, new technology, or a redesigned process. Diminishing returns also challenges the idea of endless exponential growth. Exponential growth means output keeps increasing at an accelerating rate, often creating a dramatic upward curve. In the real world, however, growth runs into constraints. Resources are limited. Capital is limited. Space, time, attention, energy, and management capacity are limited. A business may grow quickly when it is small because easy opportunities are available. But as it expands, it faces harder customers, higher costs, more bureaucracy, supply limits, and coordination problems. The same effort that once doubled results may later produce only a small increase. This does not mean growth is impossible. It means growth must increasingly overcome friction that was invisible in the early stages. The principle appears far beyond factories and farms. Consider studying. The first focused hour before an exam may be extremely valuable. It organizes the subject, identifies weak areas, and improves recall. The second and third hours may still help. But after many hours without rest, each extra hour may add less. Fatigue rises, concentration falls, and mistakes increase. The total amount learned may still go up, but not as efficiently. Fitness training works similarly. A reasonable increase in training can improve strength or endurance, but constantly adding more volume without more recovery can lead to smaller gains or even injury. Diminishing returns is a general pattern of systems under constraints, not just a technical rule for economists. Modern economics also recognizes that production can create more than one output at the same time. A factory may increase its saleable product, but also increase pollution, waste, heat, or carbon emissions. If we look only at the product, more input may seem successful. But if we hold other outputs equal, especially unwanted outputs, the picture changes. Producing more while also producing more CO2 may not represent true efficiency. This broader view matters because real production has side effects. A process can look productive in financial terms while becoming less efficient environmentally or socially. Diminishing returns, in this wider sense, forces us to ask not only how much more we produced, but what else increased alongside it. At the macroeconomic level, diminishing returns helps explain why countries cannot rely forever on simply adding more labor, land, or capital. An economy may grow rapidly by building roads, factories, housing, and basic infrastructure. But once the most obvious investments are made, the next projects may deliver smaller gains. More capital still matters, but each additional unit may be less transformative than the first. This is one reason innovation is so important. New technology, better management, improved education, and more efficient institutions can shift the production curve upward. Instead of merely adding more of the same input, innovation changes how inputs work together. It can delay, reduce, or temporarily overcome diminishing returns by making the whole system more productive. Population growth offers another useful comparison. A population may grow rapidly for a time, especially when food, medicine, and living conditions improve. But indefinite exponential growth is unrealistic because population depends on resources, infrastructure, health systems, land, energy, and social organization. As constraints become stronger, growth rates can slow. This does not mean population instantly becomes negative. It means the rate of increase can move towards zero. The same logic appears in production. Extra input may continue to create output, but the additional gain becomes smaller as the system approaches its limits. Diminishing returns is therefore a way of understanding why fast growth often becomes slower growth long before it becomes actual decline. The practical lesson is simple but powerful. When results slow down, adding more of the same may be the wrong answer. If more workers, more hours, more spending, or more resources produce smaller and smaller gains, the the system is probably asking for a different kind of change. Maybe the bottleneck is equipment. Maybe it is organization. Maybe it is skill, technology, capital, land, or strategy. Diminishing returns does not tell us to stop growing. It tells us to pay attention to marginal gains and system constraints. The smartest response is not always more effort. Often, it is better design. More can work for a while, but eventually, productivity depends on balance, innovation, and using every input in the right combination. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.